Hello, hello. This is Irene with SaugaTalks. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you know that we are on LinkedIn, we're on X, we're on YouTube. Some shorts videos are out there just to see the insightful conversations we're having here with fascinating people in tech. And today is my day because Josh Jacobson is here. Josh, how are you?
I'm well. How about you? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. The pleasure is mine because we said we're going to talk about AI systems, cybersecurity in a way, right? And how AI generated code actually affecting organizations, people, and, at large, the industry. So, Josh, thank you for so very much for being here. I want to start with AI vulnerabilities. Okay, because we
Yeah.
talk a lot about about shiny toys, about promise, about everything, the art of possible, basically, right? That's evolving every day. All right, but could you please talk to us about key AI system flaws, okay, that organizations miss, and how can they secure them?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So the fascinating thing is like there's the traditional kind of security vulnerabilities and just what can be opened up with AI systems. And the fascinating part is there's so much that, and it's so powerful that it can do, that you're not fully aware of everything that it's capable of. And where that gets into the more fascinating, the scarier territory for me is that it's not just a traditional security vulnerability anymore. It is now into the realm of safety and making this AI, whatever you're interacting with, do something that it's definitely not supposed to do, something that most traditional security practitioners or developers don't really consider. So, like chatbots, that's probably the most common interaction that everyone will have on a more day to day basis with AI. And with these chatbots, you can find ways to trick it, just almost like social engineering. You're kind of social engineering an operating system, or not an operating system, but like a computer or AI or what have you. And you can trick it to telling you things that it's not supposed to. That could be dangerous or illegal or just frankly inappropriate. And that's the part where most folks are not really thinking about quite yet, the safety aspect of it. So that's where the current gotchas are. Can I make this chatbot hallucinate or give me a discount that doesn't exist? Can I get it to teach me to make things that I should not be able to know how to make, that could be dangerous or illicit? And so that's the burgeoning area, and that's where it's really opening up in the security world.
I learned a lot about how AI code, okay, changing everything, okay, because it's a major breakthrough in development, all right? Teams
Yep.
getting productivity gains, organizations predict they will not need much programmers or software engineers in the future. We're going to see how that goes. But could you please talk to us about some security risks that some AI generated code pose?
Yeah, the key aspect of it is just not thinking about the traditional hardening or security functions or factors when you're building out code. It's nice, you could do it very very quickly, you could do it very very easily, but unless you have these very strict guardrails or instructions, or just really smart folks at the other end of the development side, making sure that you're doing the right thing, you could spin up something very slick, very cool looking, but it's full of security holes and Swiss cheese. And so that's the part where it could be dangerous. You could do a whole bunch of stuff a lot faster, and frankly, it could be really cool. But when you're thinking about speed, you're not always necessarily thinking about security in mind. So that's where that could be pretty dangerous. And then there's also the potential to use insecure libraries. Just because it works doesn't mean that it's a good idea to use. It's not safe or secure. And then the other factor of like slop squatting, where folks are creating, much like a typo squat, but they're creating repositories that have maybe malicious code that the AI can pick up on and injects into your code base. So if you're not considering those factors or don't even know to look for it, that can become extremely dangerous from that perspective, especially when you're putting less seasoned developers behind it and just someone who's having more of a conversation with a piece of AI, frankly.
In that case, Josh, how can teams avoid costly mistakes? I mean, I know it's a large question, but could you please
Yeah.
maybe spice with some examples? Or yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting answer, but just having a very good SDLC lifecycle, making sure that you have toll gates in place, making sure that you're meeting bare minimum requirements, and just testing in general, following from your development on the code base on the SaaS side, getting into dynamic scanning, DAST, if it's applicable to your application, pen testing, and then moving into bug bounty. So having this defense in depth is actually extremely important, and that will never go away. So it actually, if anything, is even more important now to have those. It's also really important to have these feedback loops. So just because you miss something, that's okay. It's not what happens, it's how you respond to it. So as soon as you find something, understand where did this occur in the life cycle? Well, it's because we were developing, partnering with AI, made us move very quickly, but it also helped us introduce something very quickly. So what was the root cause of that? What can we do to control that? And then also just always ensuring that there needs to be a human in the loop to make sure everything is okay.
I read a lot about training data pitfalls. Okay, if you can enlighten us, how do flaws in AI training data lead to insecure code? Does it make sense at all? I mean, how can organization make sure that AI generated code doesn't inherit hidden vulnerabilities? I mean, that kind of direction.
Yeah, just with anything, it is only as good as what you put into it. So if you don't work with it, you don't set up with a good solid foundation or baseline, those toll gates or guardrails, like I spoke about, then that's when bad things can happen, right? If you just go in, I'm just gonna throw whatever I can at it. It's almost like just trusting anything that you read online. If you don't go in with that mentality. You make sure that you have good, solid data. You test the fidelity. You also test with the asset that you're working with to make sure, okay, I know for exactly what this says in this document. Is the AI actually reading back to me or speaking back to me what it should be, or is it hallucinating? So making sure that you have that aspect of just putting in good, clean data and then making sure that whatever you're working with is actually spitting that back out in the accurate, clean way.
Yep, sounds easy, right? Sounds easy. I guess it's a little more difficult to implement,
Yeah.
right? And to make sure that they actually, yes, yes, system. What about some practical steps, okay? For teams, where do they begin? I'm sure the experts out there in places, right? And they're looking to integrate security into their development pipeline, right? But could you bring up some of the practical steps, even if they are just mundane, but people
Yeah.
sometimes forget about mundane things?
Yeah, it's an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. So every step that you take needs to be very planned out and very methodical. Especially even more so, right? When you automate something that is not good, you're just going to have a lot more bad. So if you put all this care and effort in making sure that you're putting in good, clean data, it is the data that you want. It is only interpreting and responding back the way it needs to be. You're not adding anything extra or any fluff. And then mandating guardrails, right? If you're a shop that only works with certain protocols, with certain packages and libraries, making sure that is part of the process. And that's just good, clean hygiene in the first place. Your developers, whether they're using AI or not, should be following these rules. And there also needs to be, like I said before, the testing methodology along those lines, but then oversight and enforcement of that. So if, just like with a human, whether it's, pure human or human with AI or pure AI, if it's not following those rules, understand why is it not doing that. There should be not repercussions per se, but responses to that, and how do you rectify that and remedy that. So it's the old adage of just being good, clean hygiene and reinforcing that and monitoring that, and also not resting on your laurels. Just because it works today does not mean it's going to work tomorrow. So making sure that you check in at regular intervals. It's just like with passwords, right? Making sure that you're checking in your username and password, or hey, are they following good clean practices? It's just auditing, really, at the end of the day.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, so with your experience in vulnerability management, all right, I'm also wondering, all right, how leaders really have to balance innovation meaning that tools are available, right? Everyone's trying and playing with new wonderful Gen AI models and, AI generated code and all that, right? It's on everybody's mind today, right?
Yeah.
But how should they build these systems with security first mindset? Okay. How this innovation versus safety and security work?
At the end of the day, you want to make sure that you understand the risk and understand and enforce what your risk tolerance is. So if you want to move very, very fast, you understand the repercussions and ramifications. So yeah, you can move fast, but that's where those toll gates come into play. You can develop something very, very, very quickly, and it's very, Gen I based. But then that's when the heavy testing methodology comes into play. That's where those feedback loops come into play, and just always ensuring that you're working defense in depth and partnering, with the broader researcher community. There's, strength in numbers in that regard. And that's where the power can really come in. You can work and move very, very fast and sure, maybe break a few things here or there. But my old adage is it's not what happens, it's just how you respond to it. Don't be nervous about critical vulnerabilities. Don't be nervous about having to fix things, but just make sure you approach it and think about it the right way. I'm going to fix this. This is great. I'm going to fix it quickly and effectively, and then I'm going to work to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So yeah.
All right, again, sounds easy. Okay, could you spice it up? Yeah, because this is like it all makes sense, right? It's just common sense and your experience that's speaking, right? Could you enlighten us on some of the disaster scenarios? Okay, let's put some projects in mind. Not particular client, of course, right? But we all been in ups and downs, okay, in our careers. So thing is, it's about learning, right? So could
Yeah.
you please describe a disaster scenario, okay, wherever, the teams, the technology, all the choices, things were planned right, okay, nobody's planning for their own thing to happen, right? And at the
Right.
same time, some lessons learned that, yeah, that audience can benefit from.
Yeah, I've had multiple instances where there were severe, external facing critical vulnerabilities. And the great thing is I've been very fortunate to work in environments that is very much a security culture, is not placing blame or anything along those lines. But I've seen it where very easily you can dump an entire database. Obviously, no one goes in and intends to do that, but it sets off alarm bells and sets off incident response. And there have been times where, actually, one time was very funny. They put a staging environment up in production. So it very much looked like something very, very bad happened that the website got defaced. In reality, it was just oops, I put the dev staging environment up in production, and that's what it replaced, and it looks like something very bad. At the end of the day, my friends and I still talk about it, and we actually really laugh about it. There was cats on the website as opposed to what should have been there, and it's like, oh, it was cute. We thought something bad happened, but then we found out, oh, yeah, we pushed that instead. Cool. Now we know. Let's revert it back. Let's understand how we can prevent that from happening again. We implemented some new guardrails and restrictions in place, and it didn't happen again. So at the end of the day, we laughed about it. In the moment, it's kind of nerve wracking, a little scary. It's like you never want to have an incident such as that. It's one thing for someone to find a scary vulnerability and disclose it to you, and that's a very good relationship with the public researcher community. But when you see something like, oh, the worst has happened, you're like, oh wait, no, okay, we went through that. And so even something like that is silly, because I've seen it from the very, very silly and just a mistake to, wow, this is very concerning, this is bad. But at the end of the day, it's all right, let's just work together, let's figure it out. Again, never, it's always easier said than done, especially in the heat of the moment. You're trying to find all these things, and that's where it gets a little bit nerve wracking when you're trying to understand, like, what happened, how did this happen, when did this happen, did anybody exploit it? And so just kicking off those mechanisms and going into play, it takes a village.
Takes a village. I'm very tempted to ask about the environment, okay, because many developers, okay, entering the job market, right, or maybe
Yeah.
mid-career, right, they're looking for the right place to be, what is it, appreciated, accepted, right, with all our human flaws, okay, and vulnerabilities, right? So maybe a
Yep.
couple of words for those who are looking for new roles or maybe just starting right, starting in the jobs and in the industry, what's kind of the good message out there? What kind of attitude? What kind of skill to bring to the table that people really feel great and create great things? Being really right on the right job.
Yeah, especially with the proliferation of AI, I don't see a replacement for very, very creative, talented individuals with a strong security mindset. I could very easily, I mean, I was just doing it, earlier today, spinning up an app just to test it out, just to kind of play around with it. But it still takes background and practice and acumen to understand it. Maybe, someone in my family who's not as technical, they can spin up something and it looks neat, but it's not going to be something that is ready for prime time to be live in production by any stretch of the imagination, because they don't fully understand the code, they don't understand the ramifications or just the insights. Like, it makes my life a lot easier when I'm trying to build out a demo or try to test something out, get it on from my mind onto paper, so to speak. But I still have to know enough and have that background experience to go, no, this is not right, and using the proper verbiage and the proper language. And then again, at the end of the day, the human in the loop aspect should never go away. That's going to be a very concerning day when people think that I can just rinse my hands of the process and I can let something run it for me just by telling it. I have a It's not related to necessarily security, so to speak, but I live in Los Angeles. I live in Hollywood, and I have friends that are screenwriters, and they're like, we're very nervous. We're very concerned. Josh, you know a lot about, working with AI and security. And I'm like, you know what? There are real human screenwriters that cannot do dialogue very well, and they're humans. You're going to be teaching and learning everything in AI off of humans, and humans are flawed. And there's always going to be that inherent kind of flaw or bias in there. So having someone who actually knows exactly what you need to do from the ground up is not going to go away. That needs to be in place. And if it's not, that's going to be extremely concerning.
What helps you to stay up to date? Okay, that's kind of off the wall question, because it looks like, right, the environment we live in changing by the minute. Okay, forget about months and years. All right, I'm not asking my guest anymore to predict, okay, technology trends. There's no reason for
No.
that. We're only laughing, right? We're just laughing at it, right? So what helps you to stay up to date and really, right, working with larger stakeholders in the organizations and clients, to really enlighten those who are just not as technical?
Curiosity. Honestly, a big part of security is being curious. Whether you're an ethical hacker, researcher, pen tester, or developer, you need to have that curiosity and passion behind it. Otherwise, you get bored. So, being willing to go down a rabbit hole, whether it's the right rabbit hole or not, you still learn something. And also being willing to get your hands dirty. I may oversee a large, great team, but I still will go, you know what? I'm going to test this out. I'm going to learn some new methodology. Am I going to apply it in my day to day? No. Am I going to be as good as any of these top tier folks? By no stretch of the imagination. But I'm curious. I want to know a little bit more. I like to be hands on. So that curiosity and that passion is going to just keep driving it. And then just interacting and talking to other folks and learning from your colleagues. And what do you think about this? And having passionate debates back and forth and those conversations. That's going to be always important. So keeping that curiosity and passion behind it.
That's also a great advice, for those who starting, for those who, think about advancing the career. Exactly, right? And again, to me, the attitude, right, is probably more important than aptitude.
Yes.
Yeah, agree or disagree, please. It's the stage is yours.
I completely agree. You can always teach the skill, but that drive, that personality, that the curiosity, just wanting to work with it and be willing to work with it, that you can't replace that. You can't teach that or push that into somebody. So yeah, I can teach anybody the most technical things, but it's that next level of just wanting to learn, wanting to interact. Uh, just being good to work with as well, that's never going to go away.
Beautiful, beautiful. Exactly. So we should use some for the video description, okay, of this talk, because this is ever green, ever inspiring. yeah, statement you just made. Going back to organizations, Josh. Okay, so what about some of the okay AI future trends? Look at me, right? I said we're not going to talk about it, but I'm just wondering. When you see AI generated code powering critical applications. Okay, I'm not asking you to predict the future. I'm just
Yeah.
yeah, thinking about sharing. What do you think? What do you think will be critical kind of driving moments and even drivers, right, for the industry and for the clients?
That's a good question. One thing I did see, actually, I read an article on Ars Technica. There was a hallucination that was happening with their AI, and it was actually talking about a feature that they didn't even think about because their customers were always asking about it, and so the AI was coming back and saying, "Oh yeah, this is a feature," and but it wasn't. And so I think that's going to be a really fun thing when you start to have these quote unquote like hallucinations or spurts of brief creativity that come out of it and help inspire new changes that sometimes when your head's down and you're really kind of thinking about I have to do X, Y, and Z, you're not always able to take a breather, get some fresh air to be able to go, what else should we do? So using it as a tool and as a partner and understanding that it's a tool and a partner, it's an augment. It is not a replacement. And I think once we come to terms that, like, again, like with anything else, you can machine mills a piece or a part, or you can do it in mass production. There's, values of both, right? Artisanal craftsmen are still around, but we also have things that get built in mass, but you have those checks. And so once we accept that AI is that next level of like manufacturing and scale, and we approach it that way, I think there's going to be a lot less concern or consternation, and it'll assuage some of that. So that way we can really lean into it and get the best out of that.
Yeah, in connection to that, what strategies do you think organizations should use to secure AI code against?
Been a huge proponent of just working with the broader researcher community. There's strength in numbers. And so working with good, ethical, trustworthy people is going to make the biggest difference. If you have 100 good folks versus a couple of bad actors, those 100 good folks are more likely going to win. So again, it's way easier said than done. It is one of the hardest things to do is to convince people to work with the broader community. I remember back when I was a pen tester and my customers were very concerned about working with pen testers. I have an internal team versus I work with an external team. But the more and more we lean into that and we have just good people, good hearts trying to do the right thing and getting ahead of that, that's going to make all the difference. And then also understanding lock things down. You can't just trust everything out on the internet, of course. I mean, that's what my parents always told me when I was little. You can't just trust everything. So having that, verification aspect of it and monitoring, just making sure that is also in place. It's not one thing to make sure you're testing the code, but you're keeping an eye on things. Are things working the way they should? Good logs, and then knowing your threat landscape. There are nation states, just like ethical hackers, are going to be water around the rocks. They're going to go for that easier target. So make yourself a little bit harder than the next person, and it'll serve you well.
How not to lose mind while doing all this, because I'm asking my guests a lot about those leaders, okay, who have whole technology stack on their plates, okay,
Yeah.
who have mission critical application, who hold their business, okay, with their technology systems. How business is being driven by technology in many organizations now, right? So how can they keep sane and sleep at night? Because we want them in the morning refreshed and ready to go, right, rather than worrying and just thinking what else out there that can blow on me.
Yeah, setting yourself, make sure you have a good foundation of whatever you are doing and iterate, never resting on your laurels, and having a good positive mindset in general is just good for anything, quite frankly. But when you start getting away from treating attacks or incidents or vulnerabilities as inherently a negative, it's not something necessarily good. I'm not going to say like, oh, that's great, good job, you have a SQL injection vulnerability, hooray. But treating it as a learning point. So what's my lesson that I can learn? How can I respond to it? There there's nothing like proving yourself in the face of adversity and just go, you know what? It's not what happened. It's how I responded, how I took care of it. And just trusting that nothing is going to ever be perfect and that is okay. So yeah, it's easier said than done again, right? It's easy to worry. There's a lot of bad folks out there that are trying to take things or break things or make things scary. But if you just put your best foot forward and best effort, and trusting your process, working with your team, not placing blame. That's the other thing. I could have vulnerabilities or attacks happen to me all day long, and if no one was coming in to blame, and no one was pointing fingers or trying to say, well, this was and so didn't do this. That's just not a healthy way to think about it. It's like, okay, this is what happened. That's a fact of the matter. We're here to make things better. We're not here to bring anybody down or bring things down. And also a fail-safe backup plan. I was very, very fortunate to be at an organization where if the development team said that I'm either unable to fix this or we just cannot simply get to fix this at the time, we had a lot of power to have a fail-safe and go, we're taking it down. No one's getting blamed. No harm, no foul. This is just the fact of the matter. And then we'll take care of it and we'll bring it back up when it's ready. I would rather us have something down than completely broken, because once it's broken, it's Humpty Dumpty. You can't really necessarily easily put it back together again. How can you trust it? At least while you know you can take care of it and control it, then you put it back. And so that fail safe is also a nice comfort to be able to have as well.
Time is flying, when you're in a good company. So we touched on some of the AI vulnerabilities, right, and concerns that leaders should have. Could you please maybe bring some success stories to life, okay, for us? Just describe the project that, again, things were planning, the way they should be. People were in the right place, and just, business saw great results, maybe from your some past experience.
Yeah, there's nothing more exciting actually when you follow the steps, you follow the methodology, and then an asset finally goes public, and you get what I like to call novel and elusive vulnerabilities. So vulnerabilities that could not have been found at any other step of the process, irrespective of what the asset is. And then you go, wow, how did you find that? I'm not mad. I'm just curious and excited and interested. Like that. It's like that wow factor of when you're identifying just these vulnerabilities that you could not have ever imagined could have happened, or the chaining could have. How did you even think about chaining that? Oh, I partnered with this person who's really good at that, and then you put it together, and now we have, wow, cool. We have something to fix, but that's exciting, and I'm glad we found it. And I hope we never find it again. And I hope we find the next novel elusive vulnerability again that you cannot get without working with a broad researcher community and putting a lot of defense and depth in place. And just that's one of my favorite things to see when we have these customers go, I was extremely afraid that could have happened, and I have no idea how that did, but we'll find out. Thank you. That's a really good feeling, because our goal, any security practitioner's goal, is to make things better. It's never to make things worse or scary. So just to kind of be excited about vulnerabilities in a way is kind of interesting, and I'm starting to see that trend where back in the day, this is bad, you're bad, this is, don't do that. Now you're like, oh, cool, this is neat. All right. I mean, I don't want that to happen, but cool. And so that's what makes me wake up in the morning and get excited for work, and putting hard hours in, sure, but when you see that with customers or colleagues, you feel like you did something right, and you did. So
Amazing, amazing. Even listening about this, is inspiring. So I do hope it will resonate with the audience, because, yeah, nothing like getting up and getting to your job every morning, knowing that you can make a difference. Okay,
yeah.
today or maybe in a few weeks, who knows? Maybe in a few months. But yeah, this is absolutely inspiring, Josh. Thank you for this. Let me ask you this: how often clients and your team using AI to discover those vulnerabilities? Because we hear about, right, all the application in healthcare, in retail, you name it, right? But is it really the adoption is that broad, or we just yet to see the biggest discoveries? Yeah.
Right now we have AI hackbots that are on the tops of our leaderboards. So it is it is there. It's actually been around a lot longer than people really do realize,
Mhm.
and it's only going to get better from here. So being able to scale your insight and your intellect and then put it into something that can work in a broader way for you that no other human could. So just like when you're working with a broad research community, now you're extrapolating that. Now you're taking their insight and their intelligence and they're building these tools, because that's what they are at the end of the day. They're tools for very smart people to go, okay, I think I have something here or found something for me. And then you maybe it picked up low hanging fruit that maybe you wouldn't have maybe gotten to because you didn't have the time. But now you can take that next step further. Instead of maybe a lower medium cross-site scripting, can we chain this? Can we make this do account takeover somehow? And so that's going to be extremely exciting to see more and more of that proliferate and get a lot of these really smart folks to put their brains behind something that can scale for them. So yeah.
Beautiful. That's pretty much the answer I expected. But again, it's good to be reassured that exactly right in security, AI was probably adapted little earlier than we all realized, right? The general public maybe, but you know what? Fantastic. Looking forward to see more useful, productive applications. We're just making our work life better, right, and our world better, hopefully. Josh,
Yep.
thank you so very much. In conclusion, could you please share a few takeaways, all right, something to remember this conversation by? We talked a lot about the promise, the art of possible, right, at the same time very practical steps, so something to remember this conversation.
Yeah, it's not what happens, it's how you respond to it. Always be curious and you get out what you put in. So and also at the end of the day, don't let AI be the scary thing in the corner. If you do it right, it can be extremely powerful, just like with any other automation. It takes work, but there's a lot of value and benefit that'll happen, and it can bring good to the world.
Thank you. That's nice and clear and concise. Josh, thank you so very much for your time today. I enjoyed our conversation immensely. You will find us on major podcasting platforms. We'll be on YouTube, on X, on LinkedIn. I encourage everyone to follow Josh Jacobson with HackerOne, fantastic organization of many capabilities, right? Within, do you want to plug in, your team's work? Josh, please do it now.
Yeah, so I oversee our professional services organization, so we can partner with you, making sure that you onboard into our platform extremely smoothly and cleanly and happily, and then be advised on the security best practices. Myself and many others on my team, we've built bug bounty programs before. We are ethical hackers and very insightful, curious, technical folks, all the way to partner with us on AI red teaming, especially in the safety aspect of it. That's my pet area. That's the most exciting thing for me. But just putting the effort in and testing and partner with our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh, so very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.